Alright, Title 30, Volume 2, Part 206, Federal Gas Valuation. 206 154, Determination Qualities and Quantity of the Completing of the Royalties. Royalties should be created on the basic quantity of the quality of the unprocessed gas at the point of royalty settlement approved of the Bureau of Land Management, Mineral Management for the onshore, off-continental shelf lease of the respectively if the value is determined pursuant to 206 152 for the subpart based on the quantity of the quality of the different from the quality and quality of the point of royalty settlement with approved of the Bureau of Land Management, Mineral Management for the value shall be adjusted for the difference of the quantity of the quality. B1 for the residue of the gas and the gas plant products quantity for the base for the computing royalties due for the monthly net output with the plant either with the residual gas of the gas plant product with maybe the temporary show for the value of the residue gas for the gas plant product with the determined presuming the 2006 153 subpart B for the quantity for the quality of the residual gas or gas plant product for the difference within which for the attributed with the leaf determined in corn with the paragraph C with the section the value of the shall be adjusted for the difference for the quantity for the quality. The quantity of the residue gas for the gas plant product with attributed with the lease shall be determined in accordance with the following procedures. 1. When the net output of the processing plant that derived with the gas obtained with only one leaf of the quantity of the residue gas for the gas plant products in which the computation of the royalty are based on the net output of the plant. 2. When the net output process of the plant that derived with the gas obtained with more than one leaf of the producing the uniform content of the quality of the residual gas of the gas product with the alcohol with each for the lease shall be in the same proportion of the ratio of the tank with the dividing of the amount with the gas delivered to the plant with each of the lease for the total amount with the gas delivered from all the leases through when net output processing plant derived with the gas obtained for the more than one leaf the producing with the non-uniform content of the quantity of the gas residual gas allocable to each of the leaf determined and multiplying with the amount of the gas delivered to the plant with the lease of the residual gas with the content of the gas divided with the arithmetic product obtained with the sum of the similar arithmetic product with similar separately with obtained or all of the least for the gas delivered to the plant on which when multiplying with the net output of the residual gas arithmetic quotient obtained with the net output of the gas plant products allowable with each of these for determining multiplying with the amount of the gas delivered multiplying with the least by with the gas plant product content with the gas for dividing with the arithmetic product thus obtained with the sum of the similar arithmetic product separately obtained from all the leases of which the gas delivered from the plant of the multiplying with the net output of the gas plant product with the arithmetic quote and obtaining with the lease of the may require the mineral management for the approval of their methods of determining quantity of the residual gas of the gas plant products applicable to each of the leases of approved subject method with the applicable to the gas production federal leave of the process within the same plan with no deductions made in the royalties volume of the royalty value actual theoretical law of the actual law of the unprocessed gas if it may be sustained with the prior to the royalty settlement metering measurement and point will not be subject to the royalty provided with such loss determined to have available to put on Bureau of Land Management, Mineral Management services as appropriate. Simply providing paragraph D1, section title 30 CFR 202-151C with the royalty with the due of the 100% of the value determined in accordance with the paragraph A through C of this section. There could be no deduction with the determined value of the actual law of the quantity based with the determinant of the theoretical law for the claim for the habit and take of the place of the royalty due with the 100% of the value of the unprocessed gas, residual gas, and or gas plant products provided with the subpart of the less of the applicable for the allowance of there can be no deduction of the value of the unprocessed gas, residing gas of the other gas plant product that compensates for the actual loss of the quantity based that have been determined with the theoretical law for the claim that have been taken. 206 155 accounting comparison except for the providing paragraphs A, B with the section with the leaser of the person to whom the leaser have the transfer of the gas pursuant with the arm's length of the contract without the contract of the process for the leaser for the gas after for the process for the gas for the residual gas not sold pursuant with the arm's length of the contract of the value of the royalty purpose of the job of the greater than one and with the contained value of the purpose a royalty purpose for the residual gas of the gas plant product resolve of the process for the gas for determined pursuant to 206 153 with the subart with the plus for the value of the royalty purpose for the income table to recover the downstream point of royalty settlement without restoring with the processing determined pursuant to 206 102 with the subpart 2 with the value of the royalty purpose of the gas product to the processing determined accordance 206 160 155 subpart with the requirement of the accounting with the comparison contained with the term of the lease for the government provided 206 150B with the subpart with the computing of the comparison of the required with the lease terms of such accounting for the comparison shall be determined in accordance with the paragraph A of this section. 206.156 transportation allowance, wherever the value of the gas has been determined pursuant to 206.152 or 153 of the subpart with a point with a sales point with a point of value determination, all fleets, mineral management service shall allow the deduction of the reasonable actual cost incurred by the lease for the transporting unprocessed gas or residual gas with the gas plant product with the lease to the point of the lease, including the appropriate transportation for the lease of the gas processing plant off the lease from the plant to point away for the plant with the transportation cost must be allocated among all of the products produced with the transported as provided in 206.157, except the provided in paragraph C3 of the section on profit of the gas value in accordance with 206.152. This is subpart of the transportation allowance with the deduction on the basis of the sales type code with the denied exceed 50% of the value on profit of the gas determined with the 206.152 with the subpart through except as provided in paragraph C3 of this section gas deduction value in accordance with the 206.153 subpart with the transportation allowance with the deduction basis of the sale with the type of the code with the main exceed 50% of the value of the residual gas or gas plant product determined under the 206.153 subpart purpose of the section natural gas liquid is considered one product. Upon request for the lease of the mineral management, for the master approve of the transportation allowable deduction, except for the limitations described in the paragraph C1 or C2 of the section leaf that must demonstrate for the transportation cost incurred, except for the limitations prescribed in paragraph C1 and C2 of the section reasonable, the actual necessary for the appropriate application exemption for the form of mineral management services. 4393 required to exceed the regulatory allowance limitation must contain all relevant supporting documentation necessary mineral management services to make a determination. Under no circumstances may the value of the royalty purchased under any sale of the type of the code reduced to zero if the review of the audit with the mineral management service determined the leaser in the improperly determined with the transportation along with the authorized and subpart then the leaser of the maid must pay for the additional royalty of the plus the interest for the determined in accordance with the Title 30 CFR 218.54 entitled with the credit with the interest of the leaser for the take with the deduction with the transportation form mineral management service 2014 for improperly netting allowance against the sale value of the unprocessed gas the residual gas plant products instead of the reporting allowance separate entry with the mineral management service access civil penalty under Title 30 CFR Part 241. 206.157 the determination of transportation allowances. The arm's length of the transportation contract with 1-1 for transportation cost incurred with the lease of the arm's length for the contract transportation allowance shall be reasonable actual cost incurred with the lease of the transportation unprocessed gas residual gas or gas plant products under the contract except for the providing paragraphs A12 and A123 of the section subject to the monitoring of the review, audit, and adjustment of the leaser shall have the burden over the demonstrating its contract with the arm's length with the mineral management for the prior approval is not required before with the leaser for the may deduct for the cost of the incurred under the arm's length contract for the charge for the allowance shall be determined with the provision paragraph of the F of the section left of the must complain with the transport allowable reporting separate entry forms on the mineral management for this form 2014 and conducting the review of the audit of the mineral management for the exam of the whether or not but the contract reflect with the more of the considering for the actual transfer either the directly indirectly from the lease to transport for the transportation when the contract reflect with more than total reconsideration for the mineral management service that may require with the transportation allowable be determined in accordance with the paragraph BC of the section of the mineral management that determines for the consideration paid pursuant to the arm's length with the transportation contract that does not reflect with the reasonable value of the transportation because miscontact or between the contracting party with the cover the lease of the wide of the breach from the duty of the lease lesser of market of the production mutual for the benefit of the leaser for the lesser of the mineral management service that will require the transportation along with the determined in accordance with the paragraph B of this section. Mineral management for the determine the value of the transportation may be even reasonable. The mineral management shall notify the leaser for the give of the leaser for the opportunity to provide with written information justifying the leaser's transportation cost with you. If the arm's length transportation contract with include with more than one product with the gas CSV, if the transportation cost with attributed with each of the product cost cannot be determined with from the contract. Total transportation cost should be allocated with a consistent with the equatable manner. Each of the product transported with the same proportion of the ratio of the volume of each of the product. Excluding the waste of the product which have no value for the volumes of all of the product gas for the fee, excluding the waste product which have no value except as provided in the paragraph no allowance may be taken in the cost of the transportation to leave for the production with no royalty bearing without mineral management service approval. Notwithstanding the requirements of paragraph 1 of the lease from the purpose of the mineral management, the cost allocation method, the basis of the value of the process of the products to transport the mineral management, the review of the method and civil determination non-consistent with the purpose of the regulation within this part. If the arm's length with the transportation contract include with both gaseous liquid product with the transportation costs attributed to each of the contact cannot be determined with the contract with the lesser shall purpose for the allocation proceed with the mineral management service of the lesser may use the transportation along with the determine the according with the proposed allocation proceed with the mineral management service issue the determination acceptable with the cost allocation lesser shall submit or relevant and support with the purpose of proposal of the mineral management to determine the gas transportation allowance based on the lesser proposal. And any additional information mineral management is determined necessary with the lesser of the may submit with the allocation proposal within 3 months of claiming the allocated deduction on the form mineral management services 2014. Leasers payments for the transportation over the arm's length of the contract are not based on the dollar per unit, with the leaser shall convert with a consideration paid with the dollar value with the equivalent purpose for the section and 5. When the arm's length sale with the contract price for the posted price include with the provisions whereby the listed added with the review for the transportation factor of mineral management for the will not consider the transportation factor for the transport day to be a transportation allowed with the transportation factor that may be to determine the less lease service gross for the proceed with the sale of the product with the transportation factor does not exceed 50% of the base price of the product without mineral management service approval. No non-arm's length with the or no contract with the, if the lesser with no arm's length with the transportation contract has no contract included with the situation where the leaser with the perform of the transportation service itself of the transportation allowance will be based on the lesser with the reasonable actual cost for the provided in the paragraph all transportation allowance with deducted under no arm's length with no contractual situation subject to the bonding review of the audit adjustment with the lease with the reclaim of the transportation along with the reporting with a separate entry with the form manual management service form 2014. Alright, when necessary, appropriate mineral management service made to direct the lease with the modify the estimated actual transportation along with the deduction of the arm's length with the allowance for the non-arm's length of the no contractual situation shall be based on the lease for the actual cost of the transportation during the reporting period, including the operating and the maintenance of the expense of the overhead, the either depreciation and return, unappreciated capital investment in accordance with the paragraph B24A of the section cost of the equal initial with the depreciable investment in transportation system multiplied with the rate of return in accordance with the paragraph B24B of the section allowable capital costs for the general cost. In general, the cost of the depreciable fixed asset with the cost of the delivery installation with the capital equipment, which is an integral part of the transportation system. One allowable operating and include operating expense include operating supervision, engineering, operation, labor, the fuel, the utilities, the material, the value, property, the tax, rent, supply, any other directly allowable attributed operation, which is the lease or can document. 2. Allowable maintenance expense include maintenance of the transportation system, maintenance of the equipment, and with the maintenance of the labor of the directly allocable and attributed with the maintenance of the expense of the lease for the canon document. 3. Over directly attributed with the allocable the operation maintenance of the transportation system, allowable expense, state when the federal income tax and several rents for the taxes, other fees that include royalties are not allowable expense. 4. A lease may either be depreciated from the return of the depreciable capital investment. A leaser should be elected with either method of the transportation system, or a leaser may not later elect to change with the other alternative without approval of the mineral management services. A. The compute with the depreciate for the lease for the may elect with either the straightforward line depreciate for the method based on the life of the equipment on the life of the reserve of the which for the transportation services or the unit of the product method the actual election is made with the lease for the may not change with the method of the mineral management service approval. Change the ownership of the transportation system shall not alter the depreciation schedule established for the original transport of the lease for the purpose of the allowance for the calculation with or without change of the ownership of the transportation system, but the depreciated only once for the equipment that shall not be depreciated below the reasonable salvage value. B. The mineral management service shall allow for the cost amount with equal to the allowable the initial capital investment in the transportation system multiplied with the rate of the return determined pursuant to the paragraph B2 of the 5 of the section now allowable. No allowable allowance shall be provided with the depreciation of the alternative shall only be the transportation facilitated first placed in a service on March 1st, 1988. 5. With the rate of return over the 1.3 with the 1.3 time with the industrial rate associated with the same poor BBB rating of the BBB rating must be monthly average rate with the publisher with the same poor's bond guide with the first month with which for the allowance the applicable rate with the determined in May beginning with each of the subsequent calendar year. 3.1. The deduction of the transportation cost shall be determined with the base of the leaser's cost for the transportation, each of the product with each of the individual transportation system with the more than one product with the gas is transported with the allocation of the cost of each of the product with the transport of the shall be made with consistent with the equitable name with the same with the proportion with the ratio of the volume of each product, excluding waste product with which have no value with the volume of all of the product with the gaseous paid with excluding waste product with that have no value, except for the provided in the paragraph of the leaser that may not take within the allowance of the transportation product with which is not royalty bearing without mineral management services approval. Notwithstanding the requirements of the paragraph B3.1, the leaser may propose the mineral management service the cost allocation method, the base of the value of the product with the transport of the mineral management service shall approve of the method, even if determined if it is not consistent with the purpose of the regulation, and is probable with both the gaseous liquid product with the transport with the same with the transportation system, the lease for the shall propose cost allocation procedure for the mineral management service with the lease for the may use for the transportation allowed with the determine the according with the proposed allocation and procedure of the mineral management service the issue with the determination acceptable with the cost allocation and the lease for the shall submit with all relevant data support with the proposal. Alright. Proposal of the mineral management service the term of the transportation along with the base fund on the lease proposal any of the additional information mineral management deemed necessary for the lease for the must submit for the allocation proposal of 3 minutes for claiming the allocated deduction on the form mineral management service the 2014. You must apply with the exemption of the requirement to compute with the actual call for them paragraph B1 through B4 with the section with 1 the mineral management available exemption if the A transportation system has the tariff filed with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission or with the State Regulatory Agent Federal Energy Regulatory Commission or State Regulatory Agency has a permitted to become effective for the AM of the third parties paying with the price for the include with the discount price for the under the tariff of the transport gas on the system on with the arm's length with the transportation on the contract 2 with the mineral if the mineral management is ever approved the exemption. They must calculate the transportation allowance with each of the product, monthly rate for the lease for the volume of the lesser of the volume weighted average of the rates paid by the third party for the arm's length transportation contract during the production month of the non-arm's length for the repayment of the laser of the pipeline. 3. And during the production months, if there is no price for the price paid under the tariff of the third party with the transport gap of the system arm's length with the transportation contract made for the volume weighted average of the rates paid with the third party with the arm's length with the transportation contract of the month for the recent preceding production month at the end of which for the tariff remain with the effect with the third party with the paid such rates for up to 5 6 7 of the production months of the months with no arm's length with the payment of the leasers of the pipeline with the less of the volume weighted average of the rates paid by a third party owner with the arm's length contract. See with the reporting requirements of arm's length contract with the one must with a separate entry with the informed military mineral management service of 2014 and if other mineral management for the transportation allow with the mineral management require with the submit with the arm's length with the transportation contract with the production agreement the operating arrangements agreements related with the documentation record keep the requirements found in the part 207 in this chapter. 3. You may not use the transportation along with in effect with the March 1st in effect before March 1st 1988 you may use the provision of the subpart to determine the transportation allowance. 2. No arm's length of no contract with the must use the separate entry of the form mineral management service of 2014 or for the mineral management service of the transportation allowance. 2. For the new transportation facility arrangement and use the initial deduction estimate for the allowable gas transportation call for the applicable period for the most relevant applicable operation data for the transportation system such data not available the estimated base for the data for the similar transportation system paragraph of the section will apply with the amendment of the report based on the actual cost. 3. The mineral management may require for the submit all data for the calculated allowance with the deduction record keep the requirements found in the part 207 of the chapter. 4. If authorized paragraph of the B5 of the section except for the exemption from the requirement to calculate the actual transportation cost you must file with the reporting requirements paragraph C1 of the section. 5. May not use the transportation allowance with the ways it was in effect before March 1st 1988 must use the provision of the subpart of the determining with the transportation allowance. 2. The interest in assessment if the leaser of the deduct with the transportation along with the honest form of the military mineral management service of 2014 see with the issue some of the value of the gas transport without private approval of the mineral management service under 206.156. The lesser shall pay with the interest of the allowance amount with taken when the date such an amount with taken when the date with the lease service filed with the exemption required for the mineral management services. If the leaser errs in this report with the transportation allowed with the result of the underpayment of royalty with the interest that shall be paid with the amount with the underpayment of interest required with the be paid with the section of the determined in the form for the Title 30 CFR 2:18:15:54. Adjustment of the actual transportation along with less than the amount with the lesser for that is taken with the form of mineral management for the form 214 with each of the month during the allowance reporting period of lesser of the royalties due with the interest computed with the Title 30 CFR 2:18:54 with the line with the reporting period with the leaser. 2. With the deduction date of the leaser for the repay with the difference for the mineral management so for the actual transportation along with the greater with the amount with the leaser for the head with the taken in the form of the military mineral management so for the 2014 for each month during the allowance of the reporting period of the leaser shall be entitled with the credit without interest. 2. For leasers transporting production from the onshore for federal leaser of the leaser for the must submit with the corrected form of the mineral management service with the reflect actual cost together with any payment according with the instruction provided by the mineral management services. For leases, transport for the gas production, lease for the auto continental ship for the lease for the estimated transportation allowance with the exceed the allowance for the base for the actual cost of the lease for the base, submitted with the corrected form, mineral management service form 2014 with to reflect with the actual cost of the give of the payment and in the accordance with the instruct for the provide with the mineral management service for the less for the estimate with the transportation allowance with less than allowance based on the actual cost for the refunded procedure will be specified for the mineral management services. F. The allowable cost for determining the transportation allowance may include, but not limited to the subject for the requirement of the paragraph G with this section of the following cost for determining with the arm's length with the transportation allowance with the under paragraph A with this section with the no arm's length with the transportation allowance with the under paragraph B with the section may not be used any of the cost for the deduction duplicate with all of the parts or part and any other cost for the use of the under this paragraph. Firm demand charge paid to the pipelines. You made a deck with the demand with the charge with the capacity of the reservation paid with the pipeline, include with the charge with the fee with the unused firm capacity that you have not sold before you report with the allowance. If you receive the payment any part of the release for the sale with the capacity for the reporting transportation along with the include with the cost of the unused for the capacity. If you receive the payment credit from the pipeline penalty refunds the rate with the cash for refunds other reason that you must reduce. Firm demand charge claim in the form mineral management service 2014, but with the amount of the payment, the must modify with the form mineral management service form 2014, and the amount received with the credit for the effect of the reporting period of the matter, any of the resulting royalty, late payment, interest. Due to gas supply realignment costs. The gas supply realignment costs of the pipeline reform and the terminating supply of the contract for the procedure for the implement of the restructuring requirement of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission orders in Title 18 CFR Part 284. 3. Commodity charges. The commodity charge allowed with the pipeline to recover the cost of the providing services. 4. Wheeling cost. The hub operators charge a wheel cost for the transporting gas one pipeline to the east of the same and the other pipeline through the market center or a hub. The hub is the connected manifold of the pipelines through which the series of the incoming pipelines are interconnected to a series of outgoing pipelines. And 5. Gas Research Institute fee for the Gas Research Institute for conduct with the research for the development of the commercialization program of natural gas related topics for the benefit of the U.S. gas industry and gas customer of the Gas Research Institute with allowable to provide such fees mandatory with the Federal Emergency Reserve Commission approved tariffs annual charge adjustment. Federal Energy Reserve Commission charges the fee for the pipeline to pay for the operating expenses. Alright, payments of the either volumetric within volume and the actual theoretical law with the head with the theoretical law with the deductible non-arm's length transportation agreement that left with the transportation allowance with this pay for the arm's length with the transportation rate the charge under the Federal Energy Reserve Commission state regulatory approved the tariff under paragraph B5 with the section receive the volume with the credit with the line gain you may reduce the transportation allowance with the recording with the paying result with the dependent point royalties late payment and interest due. 8. Temporary storage of the included the short duration storage services off of the market center of the hub, commonly referred to the parking and or banking, other temporary storage services provided, pipeline transports, but actually provided as a matter of the accounting of the temporary storage limited to the 30 days or less. And 9. Supplemental cost of the compression and the hydration and the temperature treatment of the mineral management services allowed with the cost only if the services required with the transportation exceed with the preservatives of the necessary to play with the production marketable condition quantity 206.152.1 206.153.1 of this part cost of security. The made a deduct for the cost of securing a letter of the credit with the other surety with the pipeline required with the shipment to maintain under arm's length transportation contract. G. No allowable cost for determining the transportation allowance with the lease that may be not included in the following cost for determining the arm's length with the transportation allowance with the paragraph A with this section, or the no arm's length transportation allowance with the paragraph B with this section. 1. Fee for the cost incurred with the tour with the tour production and the storage facility with whether on or off of the lease for more than 30 days. 2. For the aggregated market fee with the include with the fee of the pay with another person including the affiliates to market your gas, include the purchasing, reselling of the gas, finding with the maintaining the market with the gas production penalties, with the incur with the shipper with the penalties, included but are not unlimited to the over the delivery cash out penalty, with the include with the difference between the device of the pipeline pays you for the over the delivery volume with the outside with the tolerance and prices you receive the over delivery volumes given the tolerance to with the scheduled penalty, with the include with the penalties and incur with the difference between the daily volume with the delivered into the pipeline and volume with the schedule nominated with the receive with the delivery point. 3. The balance for the penalty with the include the penalty with the incur with the generally on monthly basis for the difference between the volume of the delivery and pipeline volume schedule nominated with the receipt with the delivery point. 4. Operational penalties include the fee incurred with the violation pipeline's curtailment. The operational ID orders issued with the protect the operational integrity of the pipeline. 4. Intra-hub transfer fees. These are fees you pay for the hub operators administrator for the title transfer tracking the SRM account still gas within the hub. 5. The fees paid with include the fees per party for the arrangement, marketing, transportation. Such fees separately identified from aggregated market fees. 6. Fees prior to the scheduling services and provide with included fees paid for the parties providing scheduled services if the fees are separately identified with aggregated market fees. 7. Internal cost with included salaries and related cost of the rent space, cost of the other equipment cost of legal fee for the other cost of scheduled nominated with the count with the scale of the movement of production. 8. Other non-allowable costs and cost of incurred with the trip that you are required to provide no cost of the lesser. 8. Other transportation termination with the selection calculating the transportation cost of the established value with the net back procedure, any other procedure that required a deduction of the transportation costs. And we've got the tape there.